Welcome to the May 22nd, 2024 meeting of the Natural Resources Board here in Madison. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance to our great nation. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll now call our hybrid meeting of the Wisconsin Natural Resources Board to order. I've got a few administrative reminders. First one is please turn off your phones or other devices that might interrupt the board meeting and help us try to minimize any background noise so that we can communicate clearly and people can hear. Our NRB meetings are televised live via YouTube, and we typically have several viewers, so welcome to our viewers as well. We thank you all for tuning in. Records of our past meetings are available for review on the DNR website under Natural Resources Board Briefs of Actions. Direct public involvement and open, transparent meetings are the foundation of how this board has operated for the past 50 years. And it's how we strive to operate today. Our Natural Resource Board discussions and decision-making are transparent to all, and public testimony is very welcome at every regularly scheduled Natural Resource Board meeting. To ensure fair and equal time for all, please limit your public testimony to 3 minutes per speaker. We have a light system here to remind you, and when the yellow light goes on, you have 30 seconds left on the clock. And when the red light goes on, you're over time. And I will try to discreetly and politely remind you of that if we get into the red light zone. So thank you. Staff presenters via Zoom, and we expect to have some presentations over the Zoom system this morning. Please make sure you're muted, your video is turned off until your item is announced. For all participants, please note there can be delays in the Zoom broadcast, and it's very easy to talk over one another. I'll probably try and slow the pace down when we get into Zoom communications. I want to thank Deputy Secretary Little and your department leadership team for your continued support of this board and for our shared commitment to enhance collaboration between the department, the board, and the citizens that we serve. And a special thanks to our issue presenters, DNR Information Technology staff, Office of Communications, General Counsel, and all support staff who make these meetings possible. Your time is valuable, and we very much appreciate your support. I will individually recognize Ashley Bistel, our Natural Resource Board liaison. Ashley's there with the red top on. And it's a chance for people that just know Ashley by phone or by text or by email to connect a name and a face with a person. Ashley provides wonderful support for the board, and she is your primary contact for public communications with the board. I'd like to add a special statement this month. Ashley has informed us that she's going to be gone for a while. She's going on a maternity leave late in June, and will be off for 6 months. It's wonderful news. I wanted to announce it at this meeting so the public is aware that you'll be dealing with other people that will be substituting and backing up Ashley during her maternity leave. There'll be more than one, so if you hear different voices on the phone, you'll understand what's going on. Very much appreciate the help that those other staff are going to provide. And I can only say that that's Ashley's planned absence. As I informed her the other day, she's no longer in charge, and this may happen sooner or later than she plans. So congratulations, Ashley, and wish you the very best during your leave. I also recognize Kari Lee Zimmerman, who is the liaison, the official liaison to the Conservation Congress. Kari provides tremendous support for the Congress and between the department, the board, and the Congress. A challenging job. I want the public to know that Kari was selected as the DNR Professional of the Year by the Congress this year. That's a very big honor and it's very well deserved. Congratulations, Kari. Lastly, I want to thank all the employees, citizen volunteers, and conservation partners of the Department of Natural Resources for your continued and tireless work to protect and enhance our natural resources and to serve all citizens of our great state. Board members, any questions or comments? Hearing none, Ashley, please call the roll.
Paul Burt,
Present.
Patty Schaffner is out, in excused absence. Doug Cox.
Present.
Deb Desso,
Present.
Robin Schmidt,
Present.
Marcy West,
Present.
and Bill Smith.
Present. And we have a quorum today to conduct business, so we'll continue. Next item on the agenda is Secretary's remarks. Deputy Secretary Little.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, board members, and good morning, those of you that are in the room and also online. I just wanted to share some news. As you're all aware, we had severe storms come through the state last night, and from speaking with staff, while our parks were full with reservations in some parts of the state, I'm happy to report that there has been no injuries or loss of life because of the storms, as well as just what you'd expect kind of damage as it relates to storms. So we will be in the process of doing those cleanups and repairs, but just happy to report that no injuries and no loss of life last night. So thank you very much for the time.
Thank you for the good news. Next item is approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, I want to mention one thing in particular. There's an under notice number 2 on some of the paragraphs that lead into the specific order of business for the meeting today. There's a notice that indicates following agenda item for board members matters, which is at the end of our order of business today. Right after board members matters, the board may convene in closed session under the authority of section 19.85 sub 1 sub D of Wisconsin statutes for a safety and security briefing. We expect that to last something less than an hour at the most. We'll reconvene in open session and without any further business, probably adjourn immediately after that. So with that in mind, can we have a motion to approve the May agenda?
I so move.
Paul moves approval. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Doug. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. We have an agenda. Thank you. First item on the agenda is the consent agenda. And I will read through each of the items. It's going to be a little long, and I may have to stop for fluid lubricate my throat. So under the consent agenda, item 2A, approval of brief of actions from April 10, 2024 and May 2nd, 2024. Item 2B, acknowledgement of a donation. Fund for Lake Michigan and Natural Resources Foundation of Wisconsin donated $125,000. This donation will be used to support the Coastal Lake Michigan Habitat Restoration Project at Havenwood State Forest, Kohler Andre State Park, Lakeshore State Park, and Point Beach State Forest. Item 2C, donation from Friends of Creeks, donating $25,000 to support LTE staff time at Creeks Meadows. Item 2D, another donation. Door County Historical Society donated an enhancement and restoration project valued at $150,000. This donation will be used to enhance electrical work on the interior of the lighthouse, phase 1. There's more work planned after that at Peninsula State Park. Item 2E, acknowledging a donation from the Friends of Interstate Park, donating $40,000. This donation will be used to reconstruct the Horizon Rock Shelter at Interstate Park for the enjoyment of visitors. Item 2F, acknowledging a donation. The Friends of Peninsula State Park donated $30,000. The donation will be used to fund 1.5 LTE natural resource educator positions and educational programming for the 2024 season. Item 2G, acknowledging a donation. The Friends of Point Beach State Forest donated a John Deere utility task vehicle valued at approximately $24,000. This donation will be used to perform daily operational tasks as well as improve recreational opportunities for visitors at Point Beach State Forest. Item 2H, acknowledging a donation. The Paul E. Stry Foundation will donate $20,000 to manage state natural areas in the greater La Crosse area. And item 2I, acknowledging a donation. Friends of Pike Lake State Forest donated an accessible kayak launch valued at approximately $25,000. This donation will be used to purchase the prefabricated accessible dock. Before I ask for a motion to approve, I want to comment on this. I don't know if you can add mentally faster than I can, but on paper, the total donations this month before the board are $439,000, which reflects the generosity and the commitment from our citizens and our partners to enhance your public properties and programs. I just want to say thank you very, very much to all of those donors and partners. With that, I request a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I would move to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion to approve from Robin. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second from Deb. Any further discussion or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carried. The consent agenda is approved. Thank you. We have no items under item 3. We'll move to item 4, action items. Item 4A, request adoption of board order WA 13-21, proposed rules affecting chapters NR 500, 502, 542, and 544, related to statewide materials recycling and effective recycling programs. Kate Strom-Hjorns, recycling and solid waste. I have to pause for a minute and defer to our Deputy Secretary, Stephen Little, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Kate. I just wanted to announce to the board and to the public that Kate has started a new role as Director of our recycling program for the department, and also an alum of the Legislative Audit Bureau, which I know Assistant Deputy Secretary Mark Aquino was quite proud of. So I just want to congratulate you and thank you for your service. So with that,
Thank you.
I'll turn it over to
It's
you.
appreciated. Congratulations. Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Deputy Secretary and Chair Smith and board members. Yes, again, I'm Kate Strom-Hjorns, the Director of the Waste and Materials Management Program as of Monday. With me today is Jennifer Summerall, our Waste Reduction and Diversion Coordinator, and Casey Krasensky, who's also our Solid Waste Coordinator. They're here to help answer questions, and they're the experts and rule authors on this project. And so we're here to request adoption of WA 13-21 related to statewide materials recycling and effective recycling programs. The NRB approved the statement of scope in June 2022, and we held several public feedback meetings throughout 2023, in addition to the required comment periods and public hearing that was held in January 2024. For a little bit of background, there was a 1990 law that instituted bans on landfilling and incineration of certain materials, and the department oversees the disposal bans and program requirements. Local government responsible units implement municipal recycling programs, and a responsible unit, or RU, can be a municipality, a county, a tribe, or other unit of local government that is responsible for the planning and operation and funding of recycling programs. RUs often contract with transportation services to deliver materials to a materials recovery facility, or MRF. We have a lot of acronyms, where materials are sorted and processed for recycling. And the department administers state grant programs to assist the RUs in operating and improving their recycling programs. The recycling code was last revised in 2005, and these proposed code revisions will provide general updates to reflect operational changes within both the recycling industry and within the department. So the rule largely impacts recycling responsible units, as I noted. RUs must implement effective recycling programs that provide recycling collection services for single and 2 to 4 unit family residences, and provide education to all the residents, and also ensure that recycling services are provided at multiple family and business operations within their boundaries. In addition to current public education requirements on waste reduction, recycling, and reuse efforts, this rule requires that RUs also provide public education on electronics and battery recycling and provide information on food waste and composting education. These resources can be accessed for free from the department, such as linking to the DNR's web pages that currently exist or accessing some of our free publications and distributing that. The rule also clarifies collection service requirements at single and 2 to 4 unit households, specifying that minimum collection standards and requiring access to a drop-off site must be provided if only monthly curbside collection of recycling is offered. Because of complaints we've received over the years at the department that some multiple family apartments are not providing recycling services or have minimal services, this rule also provides criteria to determine if adequate recycling services are being offered at those facilities. We looked at different criteria to assess that and put in a few options, but one of them such as having a 2-to-1 trash to recycling container volume offered on site, and just that there's no overflow of containers in between collection services. And as part of effective recycling programs, haulers or collection and transportation services would also now be required to provide recycling tonnage data to all the RUs they service by February 1st of each year. Currently, it's just been as requested by the RU. Several proposals in the rule also impact materials recovery facilities, or MRFs, that process recyclables from RUs. There are currently 42 MRFs that certify with the department by submitting annual reports on their operations and the tonnage of materials they received and processed. So this rule codifies many existing processes for MRF regulated activities, but also adds a requirement that MRFs accepting over 5,000 tons of material per year provide proof of owner financial responsibility, or OFR, starting in 2027. So this would ensure there are funds accessible by the department for closure and general cleanup of a site if a facility operator were to abandon that facility. OFR is already required for other solid waste processing facilities in Wisconsin, such as electronics processors, construction demolition debris processors, and tire processors. Also, in response to comments from facility owners that have invested a lot in their glass recycling efforts at the MRFs, this rule proposes a minimum 12% glass recycling rate so that all facilities have the same standard and are on a more even playing field. The rule would also establish a maximum residual rate of 20% to provide a similar standard for all MRFs as well. And this encourages facilities to try to effectively recover all their recyclable material. We also proposed reduced annual reporting requirements in the rule, so that should reduce the time that MRF operators are spending annually on their reports. And finally, the rule would also require that MRFs have contingency plans in place if there were to be an unexpected shutdown, so they know where they can take materials or to store materials if that were to happen. We did, as I noted, in 2023, we held several public meetings, many different feedback sessions prior to the formal rule comment periods. And we met with different organizations and our Waste and Materials Management Study Group, and had specific meetings directly geared toward RUs and MRFs that were well attended. And our proposals were updated and based on feedback that we received at those meetings. During the public hearing comment periods, we did receive comments both opposed to and in support of requiring that owner financial responsibility for MRFs. And we made the following changes to the rule in response to those comments. So the rule now, as I noted, delays the requirement to have that OFR in place until 2027. And we still kept it that it's a requirement for MRFs that accept over 5,000 tons of materials. So the really small businesses wouldn't have to go through that process. And we also now specify in the rule that the cost of closure for a MRF will be calculated using only their costs for removing the inventory of equipment or negative value materials, likely unsorted recyclables or glass or rigid plastics that don't have good market values. And also for the recycling and disposal costs, would be included in their OFR costs. So after discussing these changes with entities that originally opposed having OFR in the requirement, and making these changes, they were no longer opposed and agreed to the rule moving forward. And that comes to the end of my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Kate. Any questions from the board?
I don't know.
Marcy,
I guess I'm the one. So
somebody's got to break the ice.
that's right. The shy one does. So congratulations, Kate, or best wishes. You're getting more on your plate. So I appreciated the briefings. I learned a lot. And now it caught my attention on those smaller businesses. What would happen if they have a problem? They're not required to follow the OFR, but would the local municipality potentially be left holding the bag?
It depends. If that were to happen at a smaller site, it was kind of decided to as promoted by the legislature and others to reduce burdens on small businesses. That was a consideration we made for those type of small businesses to not have to go through the process of OFR. And the money that would need to be set aside when we looked at those that are only collecting about 5,000 tons or less per year would be, I think it was like about $6,000 total that would have to be set aside, which might be just a couple $100s a year. And just for the processing of that and handling of that on their end and on our end, it wasn't worth it. And it is a small impact that might happen if there were to be a business that leaves a site with a lot of the material in place.
Okay. All right, so there would be methods. And then some of the comments during your public sessions were, I recognize that the timeline has been delayed, but the reports, nobody's a huge fan of reports, but you did reduce, there's some elements that have been, make it easier or streamline it?
Right, yep, for MRFs, we'll have everyone kind of redo and kind of what might be more consistent information of what types of materials they take or the size of their facility. Do they have indoor storage and outdoor storage? Things like that would be in kind of their initial certification. And the annual certification would then be much shorter and just reporting to us mostly the tonnage that they're incoming and that they're processing and the different materials that they handle.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Robin,
Comment, but not a question.
that's accepted.
Thank you. Thank you for all the work that you do. I just want to reflect that while we were traveling this winter, we were at a state where there were no recycling opportunities in the communities or the counties. And the Wisconsin legacy of recycling was so ingrained that we kept a separate bag for all of our recyclables and brought them back to us. We just couldn't see throwing them out. And I just think that's a sign of how ingrained recycling is in the state. And I think that's a great thing. And I also recognize that even in the La Crosse area where we're looking at the length of time available for the landfill, the fact that we have less of a need for landfill expansions because of the amount of recycling that we do. It's really commendable for the state, and it really is a positive thing for all communities. So thank you.
That's great, Dean.
Thank you, Robin. Any other questions or comments? Paul,
Well, I don't know if this is an appropriate question here, but I live a couple miles from a landfill. And I've always wondered, what's that going to be like in 100 years? Is it still going to be a dedicated landfill spot or 200 years? Or is this like a permanent scar on these landfills? Are they permanent scars on the landscape, or is there a end date where we'll put a plow to them again?
Well, hopefully it isn't a scar on there. We do have, regulations in place, and we're currently going through another rulemaking effort right now focused on landfill design and operations. But we do have requirements in place on the federal level and the state level for how they're designed to have proper lining. So there hopefully isn't any impact to groundwater and soils around them after they're closed, to have proper cover placed on them too. And so the goal is to have proper, management, and currently any landfill owner, anyone who owns that, is responsible for the long-term care of that landfill in perpetuity. And so it's the landfill owner's responsibility to ensure that there's no, say, seepage of leachate coming out or other impacts from that. And some closed landfills in the state, there are opportunities for minimal development on those sites if possible. But I mean, there's varied types of and sizes of landfills around the state. So,
But 200 years from now, that'll still probably be a covered landfill.
most likely.
Hopefully with a very successful, aggressive recycling program, it'll be a smaller landfill.
That'd be great.
Other questions or comments?
I'd make a motion to approve or adopt the board order WA 1321. All of those 500s.
Marcy moves approval of item 4A. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Paul seconds. Any further discussion, comments? Doug?
Thanks,
Doug,
Chair.
go ahead.
Yep, just one comment, and I think it was 20 years since the last revision to
About
these.
that, yeah. Close.
Yeah, I was amazed that it's been that long, I think either the programs are working great or we need to keep up on these kinds of changes for some of the reasons we've all discussed here.
Any further questions or comments? We have a motion to approve. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you, Kate, and again,
you.
congratulations.
Thanks.
Move on to item 4B. A land donation and a project boundary expansion proposed for Richard Bong State Recreation Area, Kenosha County. Jim Lemke, Real Estate Section Manager, and I understand Jim's going to be on Zoom with us today. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you, Chair Smith, and appreciate being here. Appreciate being on Zoom. Hopefully I'm going to come across clear and concise here in the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee. So with that, Mr. Chair, good morning, Deputy Secretary Little and the rest of the NRB. My name is Jim Lemke. I'm the Real Estate Section Manager, and in line with today's themes of donation, I'll be presenting to the board for your consideration 2 separate donations. The first transaction involves a 132-acre donation from our friends from Wetland America Trust, which is Ducks Unlimited. The acreage adjoins a Richard Bong recreational area consisting of over 4,500 acres is at the Bong recreational area. And it's just located 10 minutes from Kenosha and obviously close to Milwaukee as well. Bong is an extremely popular destination in Wisconsin, enjoyed by over 300,000 visitors a year. At Bong, you can enjoy a variety of diverse uses from horseback riding to camping. There's handicap accessible camping and fishing piers. There's just a number of different variety of things to do, canoeing and hunting, including a popular pheasant stock hunting program at Bong as well. There are multiple trail uses on the property covering over 30 miles of loop trails. And again, these trails are diverse as well, from horseback riding to hiking to dirt bikes to snowshoeing in the winter. Just a number of different uses on those trails that are at Bong as well. A number of these trails are actually located on the 132 acres that we're presenting for donation today. Bong was originally designated by the federal government as an Air Force base with ownership of over 5,000 acres. When the federal government abandoned plans for the Air Force base, basically because of the air traffic of Milwaukee and Chicago, the DNR purchased a large percentage of the land, which began the Bong recreational area. Many school districts in the area also received lands, including the Kenosha School District, who was the past owner of these 132 acres. And because of the school district owning these parcels, they were never brought within the NRB boundary of the DNR. The Kenosha Unified School District made a decision a few years back to sell their 132 acres to support expansion of their buildings and improvements within their school system. They wanted to move quickly, and Ducks Unlimited stepped in to prevent development of the land work closely with the Bong Natural Association, just a great friends group in that area, in securing $1.2 million to purchase the property. A variety of funding was put in place, including a Knowles Nelson Stewardship Grant, a NACA grant, and a generous donation from the Bong Natural Association to protect this valuable resource and to hopefully someday title the property back into the hands of the department. With that, Mr. Chair, I respectfully ask for your acceptance of the 132 acres of land from Wetlands America Trust, Ducks Unlimited, including expanding the Richard Bound State Recreational Area to include this entire parcel, and also that a certificate of appreciation be sent to the donor and made a part of the official record for the Natural Resources Board. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'm available for any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, Jim. We have a couple of appearances scheduled for today, and unless there's a real pressing question from the board, I'd like to move to the appearances, and if you can hang on, we'll come back to you with questions and maybe further discussion. Thank you,
Thank
Jim.
you.
Our first appearance on item 4B is Dan Dickinson, Waterford, Wisconsin, representing the Bong Naturalist Association. Dan, please come forward. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning. My name is Dan Dickinson. I wish to thank the board for allowing me to speak today. I am the current president of the Bong Naturalist Association, BNA for short. We are an all-volunteer friends group attached to Bong. We were incorporated in 1996. We are a 501c3 organization. It was a long road, almost 4 years getting here. It began in fall of 2020. It began when the Kenosha Unified School District wanted to sell 132 acres of sensitive wetlands, mature forests, and grasslands. They specifically wanted the land to become part of the Bong property. Realizing funds were short for the DNR to buy the land, the BNA went to work and raised funds through a variety of fundraisers. We also contacted major corporations in the area. We applied for grants to all of the private foundations we could identify. We reached out to private individuals to help. Through those efforts, we raised over $365,000, which is almost 1/3 of the entire cost of the property. Along the way, we were introduced to Glenn Glazinski from Ducks Unlimited. We couldn't have been happier that we did. Eventually, Ducks Unlimited took the lead and worked together to raise $1.2 million needed to buy the land. On a separate course, we worked to garner community support. We reached out to individuals, then to the local township, then again to the county, and eventually to every state assembly person and every state senator representing this geographic area from both sides of the aisle. And even 2 U.S. senators gave their support. We received overwhelming support from each and every one, and I brought all of those letters along with me today. The BNA has an annual budget of about $80,000, with annual revenues often exceeding what's forecasted. After paying expenses, 100% of those proceeds go to the park. It's often said that a person can stand almost any place in the park and see something that was either built by the BNA, maintained by the BNA, or funded by the BNA. The reason I bring this up is I want to assure the board that the BNA is eager to help the DNR at Bong in any way we can. In fact, anticipating this day would eventually come, we have already built up a reserve of funds to do new conservation projects at Bong, especially on this newly acquired property, if approved. I'd like to close by saying 2 things. First, on behalf of the BNA, its volunteer members, and all of the people we've reached out to, we are all in support of this land transfer. Second, the BNA has been and will continue to support projects at Bong, whether it's through financing, financial support, or through hands-on work. And that especially pertains to this additional 132 acres of property, if approved. I started to say here, thank you for allowing me to testify today, but I would like to add a third item, and that is this whole process started with the BNA, and I would like the BNA to be recognized also, in addition to Ducks Unlimited, for our efforts. And I see the red light is flashing, and thank you.
Thank you, Dan. If you could just stay there for a moment,
Yes,
there
sir.
might be questions. Are there any questions from the board?
Just curious how many members you have.
Roughly 70. It varies from year to year, but we run about 70.
And the name naturalists, are there, is it a combination of bird watchers? Plant
Oh,
watchers,
yes.
all of it?
Yeah, if I can
Sure.
continue
Well, I
and
shouldn't
answer
say
your
that.
question.
Mr. Chairman said.
You can answer the question, Dan. Go ahead.
Okay, all sorts of naturalists and so on and so forth. But I just want to emphasize that Bong Naturalist Association is certified to train and certify master naturalists, which is part of the UW extension system.
Yep.
So if that answers your question, I mean, we are a broad variety of people who's naturalists, hands-on builders, financial gatherers.
Awesome. Yeah, I had the opportunity to visit the site and one of, or a volunteer came popping out of the woods that was out there working on invasives. So,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Yeah.
It looks like it, or it sounds like it's been a long haul, but
It has
good work.
been, and we're glad to be here. Thank you.
Other questions from the board? I have one comment, Dan, and a question for you. I appreciate very much the additional attention to detail on all of the community, governmental, legislative contacts. Considering an expansion of a boundary is a very serious issue for the board. It's one that's often very sensitive, and that we usually give even more due diligence to our decision. And your work has already helped us out a lot to know that this is an extremely strongly supported, unanimous support almost from the community, and I appreciate that. My question for you is, you mentioned you brought along a lot of those letters of support with you. Do you want those entered into the official record at DNR for this acquisition? And if so, we can connect you with staff and make copies of that, or leave them, or if you want to take them with you, either one.
I can hand them to you right now
I don't want to take something that is important for your records, but if
no,
you
no,
want it
these
entered
these are
officially-
copies.
Okay,
What I have here are letters from all of the assembly people, state senators. Probably the most important one was from the chairwoman for the town of Bristol. And that's where we started, because we don't want to take, this land was not in a tax base. And so that's one of the sensitive issues for me is, are we doing harm to the local community by taking something out of the tax base that they rely on? And when I talked to the chairwoman, that was specifically one thing that she said, and she took it to the board, is this is not taking property out of the tax base. We are a rural community and we support this, and I have a letter here from her saying that.
thank you. We would very much accept that copy of that
Can I
support.
give that
Appreciate
to
it.
somebody? I can bring it up or whatever you.
Thank you.
prefer. Anymore.
Any further questions of Dan?
Well, actually,
Robin, go
sorry,
ahead.
I'm sorry. Marcy's training me. I don't know. If So the school district had previously owned this property. I'm assuming that there are opportunities for the school district to use these properties for programs that they have for their students, outdoor recreation things. like that.
Absolutely. That was one of the considerations when we talked, we directly talked to the school. Actually, they approached us. They wanted this land, and the letter states that they wanted the land to come to Bong, okay, for a couple of reasons. One is, it was near and dear to them in terms of how, and we agreed we would preserve it in its natural state, okay? And that's what they wanted. The other thing is, and I believe it's even stated in the letter, anyway, it was said verbally, that this is something that we can continue to use for their programs. And we have, I can't begin to tell you, but many school groups in the area that come by the busload. And we have a naturalist on the DNR staff that takes these kids and does programs that's age appropriate and things like that. And one of the things that we say, we want to make it available to all people, regardless of their abilities, age, and sensitivities. And that is present in most of our writings, those three things. And the last project we did was $13,000, I guess, towards a ADA trail going to an observation post, and we're building another one this summer, so.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions of Dan? Dan, thank you and your naturalist for your generosity and your insights on this
I
proposal.
see that
Appreciate it.
my 3 minutes was up a long time ago.
It's all right.
but
We were
I thank you
complicit
for-
in that with you.
I
so
thank
it
you
was
for the
helpful.
extra time. Thank you.
I think we needed more than 3 minutes on that one. I appreciate it. Our next appearance is Brian Glenzinski with Ducks Unlimited.
He's actually gonna be via Zoom.
Okay, Brian's here on Zoom. Welcome, Brian.
Good morning and thank you to the board and Dan said it very well there. I'll just expand a little bit on that. My name's Brian Glenzinski. I'm the manager of conservation programs for DU's Great Lakes Initiative. So I have the pleasure of overseeing our conservation delivery in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Ohio. And I just, this is an excellent example of community-based land protection, and Dan walked us through that very well. DU is a science-based organization. The first thing that we do when an opportunity like this comes to us from BNA is to evaluate it through our lens, and this parcel checked all the boxes for us, which is why DU got involved and helped bring this thing through to fruition. I think the community-based fundraising that needed to happen, along with the built-in nature of the Knowles Nelson Stewardship program, really sets us up for also long-term management and maintenance of the property. We had not only DU, but we had Pheasants Forever, National Wild Turkey Federation, the big three conservation organizations all supporting this. As Dan mentioned, a lot of corporate support thanks to him. And then, using the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Grant and leveraging all of those pieces to go and get North American Wetlands Conservation Act grant to protect this parcel. It's just been an awesome journey and a wise use, I think, of our funds to make this happen. Dan mentioned the community support, starting from the town to the county up into both the Senate and the House, documented well as you see there. So I think that is something that's really special about this parcel and about this effort. It's a great example of the benefits of good due diligence and walking this through and making sure we have good support at every level as we brought it through. And then just to build on to what Dan was saying, that partnership that was built to protect this parcel is gonna continue forward into the restoration and long-term maintenance. As Dan mentioned, they have already secured funds for the restoration. DU is already working on some of the restoration plans for the property, and we'll be submitting for a Wisconsin Waterfowl Stamp grant in the next biennium to help restore the property, plant the prairie out there. So that partnership isn't going anywhere and is going to help maintain this property in the long term. So thank you very much, and I'll stay on for any questions.
Thank you, Brian. Are there questions from the board for Brian? Marcy?
Just a point of clarification, in our green sheet, it's listed as Wetlands America Trust Incorporated. Is it a national arm or
Yeah.
paperwork?
That's the land protection arm of Ducks Unlimited. So when we record anything on a deed, it goes through Wetland America Trust, which is a sister organization to DU.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I should mention one last thing. I want to just make sure I'm on record of supporting BNA also being recognized. They were absolutely instrumental in this effort and well deserving of that recognition.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions from the board? Comments? Hearing none, I think we're ready for a motion. Marcy, had something you want to say?
Well, I'll make the motion first.
Okay.
Move to approve the donation with the thanks to all.
We've got a motion to approve
Second,
and we've got a second from Doug. Any further comments, Marcy?
Just that question, Jim or Stephen, how to make sure that the Bong naturalists are recognized equally.
We will work with our legal counsel and with staff to make sure that that recognition does occur.
Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that. Doug?
yep, I had similar questions. So the acknowledgement on the back, if you notice, is just for Wetlands America Trust. Obviously, that's a DU, but it should, BNA should be added, I would think, to that acknowledgement sheet as well.
Okay, thank you. Other comments from the board? We have a motion to approve on the table here. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Jim, you have another item for us. Item
Yes, thank you for
4C.
Bong.
4C is a land donation, Cross Plains State Park, Osage National Scenic Reserve, Dane County. Again, Jim Lemke.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair and members of the board and Deputy Secretary Stephen Little. The last donation is just a 1 acre parcel, but extremely important. It comes to us from a private family, the Michael Gallagher family. The family's intent is to clean up 2 scattered remnant properties that actually align very well and complement the existing department ownership for the Cross Plains State Park area. Excuse me here, the Cross Plains State Park. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And it helps to complement ownership by running the boundary all the way out to the existing town road. The land is being donated by this family and will be open to all 5 MBOAs and is located within that project boundary. So pretty straightforward, Mr. Chair. And with that, I respectfully ask for the board's consideration and available for questions on this donation as well.
Thank you, Jim. Are there questions from the board? Robin?
Jim, could you just further explain? I know you had sent me a follow-up note about that northern piece of this donation that they're, because I thought it looked kind of strange, like it was partially cut, part of a existing farm field. Could you just share a little bit that this is that this piece was also very important in terms of the long-range vision for this area?
Yeah, they're both important. They are unusual if you look at your mapping because they're kind of scattered remnant properties of about a half an acre each in size. And some of that, Robin, comes from realignment of surveys and improved surveys over the years. So I think that contributes a little bit, but it's everything that the family owns in remainder in this part of the park. And so that's why we're getting those remnant properties in its entirety. But that northern property that you're talking about, that actually does align with the farm field to the north, which is a property that the state has some interest in purchasing as well for the park. That's also been looked at by a friends group to try and support purchase of that property as well. So that's why even that east-west property that touches the road, creates better access, is also an important parcel in this donation.
Any further questions from the board? I think we're ready for a motion on item 4C.
Chair, I'll make the motion to accept the donation.
Thank you, Doug. Doug moves approval. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Paul seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, everyone.
Enjoy your time in Tennessee,
Thank you, sir.
but don't come back with any acquisition proposals.
Well noted.
Okay, we'll move on to item 5. Ashley, are we ready for open forum? People here? We're a little earlier than normal this time. Okay, we'll move into open forum. We have 4 appearances scheduled. Our first appearance is James Olson, Madison, Wisconsin, representing himself, recent developments regarding wake surfing. Welcome, Jim. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Secretary Little, members of the board. First off, I want to thank Ashley Pistol for being such a great help and helping me appear before you. Congratulations. Thank you very much. And moving down the table, Terry Lee Zimmerman has been a great deal of help for us on our resolutions before the Wisconsin Conservation Congress. And I had a question for Terry Lee about some of the results of the last election. I sent her an email, I think at 2 or 3 in the afternoon. At 9 that evening, I got an email response from her giving me a very prompt response. So thank you very much. And also, I want to thank Attorney Cheryl Heilman for setting up a meeting with the DNR staff on the wake surfing issue. We had a very productive meeting, I think. Thank you very much. One of the questions at that meeting was, we're asking for a green sticker to be placed on the boat for to identify that they comply with the home lake rule. Question was, well, couldn't the person take a boat with a green sticker and go to another lake? Good question. And we checked with the Vermont, and Vermont says that the sticker should have the name of the lake on it. We also indicated our group met, and we thought they should also be a green sticker on the trailer that brings the boat. So that would be an additional way to make sure that there isn't a violation. It's not perfect, but the perfect shouldn't be the enemy of the good. So thank you very much. And incidentally, all 242 petitioners were contacted and agreed to that change in our petition. So it should be thought of as part of the our petition. And finally, I've given you written material on what I'm going to talk about today. 2 things that have happened. One thing, there was another resolution passed by the DNR Wisconsin Conservation Congress. There were 3 resolutions that were up. 2 of them dealt with wake surfing, and they passed overwhelmingly. There was an article in the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel about what a landslide it was. And I will say that our home lake petition is much less restrictive than what is overwhelmingly passed with the Wisconsin Conservation Congress, because it permits people to continue to use these boats as long as they follow the home lake rule. Whereas the Conservation Congress resolutions would be far more restrictive. So again, I think this is one thing that should go forward. Also, the Wisconsin Green Fire has published a paper which fully supports our need for some resolution of this issue. Finally, there are 2,337 lakes in Wisconsin that are greater than 50 acres. Those lakes are now, under the law, you could have wake surfing boats on those lakes, 2,337. There are about 100 or so that the lakes that have private or municipal property, municipal ordinances that restrict them. About 100 lakes are protected there. DNR protects about another 100. So there's over 2,000 lakes in Wisconsin that are subject to wake surfing and that need regulation. So I would ask that the department consider the petition that we filed some time ago, so that you can protect over 2,000 lakes in Wisconsin.
Thank you, Jim. A lot of progress been made in, I think, public information, building understanding on this wake surfing issue. I would point out one thing, though, the Congress position that you cited is a result of the spring hearings and the public vote. We don't get the official Congress position until it works its way through their chain of command, and they appear before the board to present the results of this year's spring hearings and their judgment as District Leadership Council, Executive Committee of the Congress. That normally happens this month, but this year we've moved it to June to give a little more time for the Congress between the spring hearings, their annual convention, and the Natural Resource Board meeting for them to conduct their business and be ready to talk with us in June. So I expect we'll get a report from the Congress on those wake surfing resolutions in June, and I look forward to that opportunity and discussion.
Okay. Some of the, one of the resolutions was a repeat of a prior one, so that probably has come before you. And what this demonstrates is the overwhelming support for some regulation. At the hearing that I was at in McFarland, the wake surfing industry had sent out a Facebook to their members to show up. They did show up. You know, we're not hiding. No, we're out there in the open. The Water Sports Industry Association showed up, opposed it, and even though opposed it, there was a landslide victory for us.
Mhm. Well, thank you very much for the update, Jim, and thank you for your work on this issue. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Robin?
I just have a comment, that on April 22nd, the Lac du Flambeau, Nation had, issued an emergency rule banning all wake boats within lakes, within their reservation. And I just looked it up and there's 260 lakes, mostly in Vilas County, for which, wake boats are not able to be used. So, I, appreciate the information that the, tribal council had taken this action for the Lac du Flambeau tribe.
Well, thank you very much. I am aware of that. I did not mention it because I thought it was their job to give the announcement. But now that you've announced it, yeah, we are thrilled that the Lac du Flambeau tribe has done it. It includes many Great Lakes up there, including Fence Lake, which is a huge lake. And so this is very important. Progress is being made, but there are still over 2,000 lakes that are not protected.
Are there other questions for Jim? Again, thank you very much for the update, Jim.
Thank you.
Our next appearance is Jeff Meisman, Presque Isle, Wisconsin, representing himself on wake surfing regulation. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you to Chair Smith, and thank you to Deputy Secretary Little, and thank you to the other members of the Natural Resource Board. My name is Jeff Meisman. I'm a registered professional engineer in the state of Wisconsin. I volunteer for the DNR Clean Boat Clean Water program as an inspector. I volunteer for the DNR program, the Citizen Lake Monitoring Program, as a citizen scientist, and I also volunteer as an island steward. I'm honored to have just received the 2024 Wisconsin Lake Stewardship Award. Today, I'm going to speak about the lack of meaningful wake surf regulations at the state level. Wake surfing is an activity that requires a boat wake, a hazardous wake, that is intentionally magnified through the use of ballast, design features, operational procedures, or any other means to amplify the wake's height and consequently generate large, dangerous waves. Problem is, these wakes create a safety hazard to everyone else using the lake. They damage the environment, destroy personal property, and they erode the shoreline. In November 2023, Senator Felskowski and Representative Swearingen proposed wake surfing legislation written and supported by the wake sport boating industry. The bill allowed creation of a hazardous wake on any lakes in Wisconsin greater than 50 acres and no closer than 200 feet from shore. The bill also revoked a longstanding right under Wisconsin law that allows local municipalities to enact more restrictive regulations to protect their local lakes. This proposed legislation's inadequate standards were defeated in large parts because Wisconsin citizens told their legislators and elected officials that what Wisconsin really needs are meaningful standards to control the impacts from enhanced wakes. Keeping that issue front of the legislators and candidates in this fall's election is critically important as we carry this forward into 2025. From April 2022 through April 2024, 9 Wisconsin Conservation Congress wake surfing citizen resolutions were submitted. You have a blue folder, which I passed out, and it has hard copies of those 9 citizen resolutions. All passed 2 public surveys and went through the gauntlet of Wisconsin Conservation Congress committee reviews and district leadership reviews. 6 of those resolutions are waiting for the NRB assignment to a DNR committee. I'm asking that the NRB to assign all 9 Wisconsin Conservation Congress resolutions to the appropriate DNR committee for consideration so that we can make recommendations to the legislature. This needs to be completed before the start of the next session. Based on the citizen resolution, there's strong public support. Please consider including the following in your recommendations. Aquatic invasive species management, either prohibit the use of ballast systems on all Wisconsin lakes and rivers, or determine a way to clean and inspect the boats. There's strong public support. Lake size limitation, 1,500 acres or greater. Lake depth, 20 feet greater or greater. Distance from shore, 700 feet or greater. This passed by 75% in the citizen resolution. There must not be any changes, most important, to the longstanding right of Wisconsin towns to enact local control ordinances specified in Wisconsin statute 30.77. I'm asking the NRB and the DNR to establish a position on wake surfing regulations and convey those recommendations to the legislation before the start of the next session. You have strong public support. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. As I mentioned to Jim just prior to your presentation, the resolutions coming from the Congress, we have a very important meeting with them next month when the leadership of the Congress comes in and reports on the results and presents the resolutions with their recommendations to the board. It's an important step in our process, and my suggestion will be we defer considering any action until we hear from the Congress, and then consider that and move ahead in whichever direction the board's going to go with it. But I appreciate this very much. Thank you for copying all this. I got it electronically and almost hit the print button, but it was a load. So I appreciate getting it from you. And I guess I'd ask the board if they have any questions of you. Marcy.
Is this from? Did you produce this?
My group produced that, yes.
Okay, so then I do have a point of clarification. The last Wilderness Alliance. Is that, that's not who you're representing?
I'm
though? You're-
representing myself today, but I'm a
Okay.
member of the Last Wilderness Alliance, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments from the board? Paul.
As a boat inspector, what is a practical way of inspecting these ballasts? How do you do it without taking them apart?
That's a great question. And I've asked that question to the DNR particularly, and there is no way to inspect these ballast systems right now. And so I asked the DNR as an inspector, what do I do when I come upon one of these boats? They said, well, you have to let them pass because there is no practical means to inspect them. That violates NR 19 and NR 40 both. And there's many studies that have shown these boats still contain water. In fact, even in their manual, they say you can't drain all the water because they don't want you to ruin your pump because they'll run it dry. And in the winter, they use antifreeze in their systems, in the ballast systems, to protect because there's still residual water in there. Also, there's been studies that have shown zooplankton and mussel larvae has been transferred from these boats.
Thank you.
Other questions? Hearing none. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Very important information.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next person on open forum is Dan Butkus, Wanakee, representing Wisconsin Lakes on enactment of local boarding ordinances related to enhanced wakes and wake sports. Welcome, Dan.
Good morning. Thank you. While I get my glasses ready. I want to thank the board, Chairman Smith and Deputy Secretary Little for allowing me to be here. I do represent Wisconsin Lakes. I am their president. Wisconsin Lakes thanks you for the opportunity to address the Natural Resources Board. We are not only representing ourselves, but also the Wisconsin Wildlife Federation, Wisconsin's Green Fire, Last Wilderness Alliance, and Lakes at Stake, Wisconsin, with a joint appeal. We have all have asked us to represent them here today. All 5 of us are nonprofit conservation organizations working to reduce and manage the impact of Wisconsin lakes and other surface waters from wake boats and the practice of wake sports through reasonable, science-based education and, where appropriate, regulation. We appear before you today to discuss what we see as an opportunity for the DNR and engage citizens of Wisconsin to work together in order to realize just such a goal, regardless of what the future action the legislature may take. We understand that the Agency and Natural Resources Board are currently reviewing its authority and options in regard to wake sports and offer these suggestions today to enhance these discussions. With the increase in size, power, and number of watercraft on Wisconsin water bodies, local boating ordinances are becoming more and more important as a tool to regulate and set communities' norms for recreation on our waters. This is even more the case in regards to wake sports. In fact, 18 local governments have either enacted or are about to enact or in the process of enacting local ordinances to regulate wake sports. Most lake districts, towns, villages, and cities are becoming interested in this type of ordinance every day. Groups like ours, especially Last Wilderness Alliance, already work closely with local governments that wish to enact such regulations. But we often hear skepticism whether such ordinances would be approved by the DNR. They incorrectly believe that these ordinances violate the public trust doctrine, or at its best, to just wait for the DNR to do something. We believe that the DNR, most likely within the enforcement division, provided public information specifically about wake-related ordinances. Working in conjunction with groups like ours, more local governments would become comfortable taking on this important tool, managing, this specific recreational impact to our waters. For example, the agency could designate 1 or 2 staff persons as agency contacts. And I'm going to have to abbreviate. You have this in your packet. I see the yellow light. In making our suggestions, we fully understand the financial and personnel constraints that exist for the agency. The enforcement division under which these activities would likely fall is certainly no stranger to these pressures. We do not believe these suggestions would be particularly costly to implement. This would be a small step and would provide a major tool in empowering local governments to make their own decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Any questions from the board?
You know it.
Marcy?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dan. First, my favorite lake in Oconto County is hosting their annual meeting this Saturday, and they announced that they will be doing a clean boats presentation as well, even though it's all voluntary. So I think there are a number of good education programs going on. I'm really happy to see that, and I appreciate your organization supporting those wherever you can as well. The volunteers are just amazing, and working with the department staff, of course. One of the things that continues to come up is that local enforcement. And I attended the Sauk County Conservation Congress meeting, and they had the same concern. What is the discussion on how to solve that for these local? I mean, it's obvious that the wardens can't be everywhere. What are some other options that have been discussed?
You make a very good point. And this is something that has been discussed, and people take different positions. I have a rather unusual position in that these ordinances should become eventually, due to time, the social norms on a lake. We currently have DNR regulations for motorboats, 100 feet from shore, distance from divers, 100 feet from diving flags, personal watercraft, 200 feet from shore. The same people that would enforce those regulations, there are very few wardens that go to every lake. I mean, it's impossible. But those are the social norms now. So a town that would enact, as Jeff Meisman has pointed out, enact these ordinances, they don't necessarily have to enforce, but there is signage at every boat landing. Lake districts like my own, Squash Lake in Southern Oneida County, we put out maps of our lake. We could include a map that shows, based on the ordinance or even a state regulation, how is that interpreted for the configuration of our lake? That's enough. It's education. Enforcement, sure. Most times citizens will most likely then either take a photograph or, contact the DNR warden. But enforcement doesn't necessarily have to be there. It is education, it's on the books, it becomes a social norm.
Yeah. It reminds me very much of trail etiquette in multi-use
Exactly.
trails on the lakes. And for the most part, the boat owners that I've talked to are interested in doing the right thing. But they also, everybody's hobby is their own. So, you know, in years past, we had a local resident on the lake that basically was the patrol and would go and talk to people. And I think in today's world, that's not as likely. But I sure hope that we can find a solution. And I agree, the education and the etiquette will hopefully rise to the top. But again, thank you for your work.
Thank you. And if I could just add.
Sure.
There are certainly, what we're asking for is someone within the DNR to communicate with towns when they ask, you know, can we enact an ordinance? What does a model ordinance look like? We would love to help give the DNR those tools so that they can then respond, you know, and with an appropriate model ordinance, if you will. It says this one will work, you know, and you know, work with the towns that ask. It is a difficult and it's a touchy situation. We recognize that as Wisconsin Lakes. There is no easy answer, but we think, you know, local control, local ordinances, you know, despite the comments of, well, how are you going to enforce? It should work.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Somebody else want to
Other
comment on the
questions or comments from the board?
department authority?
Thank you, Marcy, for putting me on a spot.
Well, the meeting's going way too quick, Stephen.
I was gonna ask you that anyway. If
Well,
we could plan for a conversation at some time in the future, and I know we have resolutions coming in next month from the Congress that we'll be
Yeah.
dealing with as well.
I was gonna hold us until secretary's matters, but we are planning on providing an informational briefing to the board next month at our June meeting to discuss a couple of things. Number one, the change over in the board, the makeup of the board. We have board members that have not perhaps had the opportunity to learn more about this issue from the department's perspective. So we want to provide that information, and we think that that is going to be helpful for you as a policymaking body to engage and have productive input in terms of how we address this issue. Realizing that the constraints that have already been referenced by the speakers both today and in prior months on the board's authority or on the department's authority and resources. What we want to do is to provide solutions that are science and fact-based that are going to be effective in their outcomes.
That seems like a very thoughtful approach and appropriate. It's good that we all have a good base of knowledge before we strike off in some direction and try and influence decisions. Dan, I'd also like to add my thanks to you for your presentation, but more so what it represents. Your presentation represents, I think, very practical recommendations that could be considered within the resources available and the authority available now. It's really given the department and the board something to look at that's possible. And the other thing I'd like to note on the record is this is the first time, I think, on this issue, the board has seen a request come in that's coordinated and networked with a large supporting group, which represents all geographic corners of the state. It represents people from both sides of a partisan divide, if you will. I see it as a very bipartisan support from the grassroots public. I see it from traditional conservation people that populate the Wisconsin Wildlife Federation and people that are more leaning toward the environmental issues with Wisconsin Lakes. It's not that simple. All those organizations have a very broad priority on issues, but it represents a bunch of organizations and people that might otherwise be operating on their own. And I just want to note that on the record, thank you for your efforts in pulling that together and putting together a very well-written document for the department and the board to consider. I think it's very helpful.
Thanks. Next appearance on our list is Carol Phillips, Presque Isle, representing herself on wake surfing regulation. Welcome, Carol.
Hi, thank you. I'm Carol Phillips. I'm a retired civil engineer talking about wake boats. I'm just adding to what the previous gentleman said about local enforcement. Like, I live in a small town. We don't even have a constable anymore, but what we can do in our town when somebody breaks a local ordinance, you photograph them. You always have your phone with you. And then you take that to your town board member and they can write out a ticket. And then the town pays $5 to the local county judge and they'll hear the case. So it's totally enforceable. I came to talk about the ballast systems though, but it's interesting what the boat manufacturers put in their owner's manuals. The 2024 manual for Malibu wake boats acknowledges that invasive zebra mussels attach to the inside of their ballast tanks. And then on the very same page, they tell owners not to fully drain the ballast because that damages a pump and it won't be covered by the warranty. Quoting from their manual, they say zebra mussels attach and infest inside the ballast systems. Then operators must ensure that the pumping is turned off when the outlets show only a minute amount of water is coming out. Leaving pumps on will result in pump damage. And decontaminating the boats is not a do-it-yourself job. The large tanks are hidden under the floor. Only the inlet and outlet pipe openings are accessible. And in the manual, they say to completely fill the tanks with hot water. Ballast capacities for most of their wake boats are 400 to over 700 gallons. That's up to 6,000 pounds. So the volume of hot water needed would be at least the amount in 8 typical residential hot water heaters to properly decontaminate one ballast boat. How often is that really going to happen if it's not mandatory? And other manufacturers acknowledge that their ballast systems can't drain completely either, as I've mentioned here previously. For example, Mastercraft's winterization procedure to prevent that residual water from freezing says to add 2 gallons of antifreeze to each of the 4 ballast tanks. So that's 8 gallons total. Boat manufacturers designed ballast systems that cannot comply with Wisconsin laws about invasives. When invasives are introduced, it'll limit our right to enjoy our lakes as promised by the public trust doctrine. The cost to try to control invasives caused by the manufacturer's faulty design would be passed on to state and local taxpayers, most of whom could never afford a wake boat themselves because the average price of a new wake boat is almost $150,000, which is about twice the median annual household income in Wisconsin. The problem needs to be solved now with an emergency rule prohibiting the use of ballast systems until the manufacturers solve their problem. Thank you. And I've got handouts.
Thank you, Carol. Are there questions for Carol from the board? Hearing none, I'd like to thank you for your prolonged effort to educate us, I think, to the nuances of wake boats, design, operations, and to better understand this issue. It's been very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the last of our appearances under open forum. We've got a couple of information items next. They could generate a little longer discussion. I'm suggesting we take our 10 o'clock break at 10 till and come back into session 5 minutes after 10, 10:05. Does that work
Perfect.
for everybody? Okay, we're on break. Thank you.
I was asked to pass these. out.
Swing the hammer. Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting of the Natural Resources Board back to order. We'll pick up on our agenda with item 6A, which is an information item update on Wisconsin's elk herds and the 2024 elk season quotas. Scott Repke, Area Wildlife Supervisor. Welcome, Scott.
Good morning. Thank you. Good morning, Chair Smith, Deputy Secretary Little, and members of the Natural Resources Board. My name is Scott Repke. I'm an Area Wildlife Supervisor within the Bureau of Wildlife Management. I work out of Black River Falls and supervise the staff there. I appreciate your time this morning. Today, I'm providing an update on the approved 2024 elk harvest quotas. You heard from Christina Kazuski last month in April, announcing that we have expanded the elk hunting opportunity to the central elk herd. And I am providing you an update today on the approved quotas in process. So just a quick update on the population status of our 2 elk herds in Wisconsin. Christina shared a very similar slide with you last month, but I'd just like to review it quickly again. We have 2 elk herds in Wisconsin. The first elk herd was reintroduced in 1995 near the town of Clam Lake in northern Wisconsin. Those elk were acquired from Kentucky. The second elk herd is in central Wisconsin in Jackson County. That elk herd was established in 2015 and 2016 with the reintroduction of 73 elk over those 2 years. Those elk were acquired from the state of Kentucky. Since then, each of our elk herds has grown at an average of 10 to 15% each year. And currently, after calves are born, currently our northern elk herd is projected to reach approximately 356 individuals in roughly July of this year. And our central elk herd is projected to reach approximately 188 after calves are born each year. We have had a few calves born so far, and the peak will be in the next couple of weeks here. With that sustained population growth since the reintroductions, the department has authorized an elk hunting season annually since 2018 that follows NRB adopted rules and approved management plans. The rules were passed in 2003, and the most recent management plan was approved in 2012. Those rules and that management plan allows the department to establish harvest quotas to achieve population goals based on biological, ecological, and social factors, which I'll touch on a bit in the next slide. The table on the right here summarizes the harvest season within our Clam Lake zone going back to 2018. The table identifies the number of applications we received each year, the approved harvest quota, as well as the total harvest between state licensed hunters and tribal hunters for each of those years. You'll notice that the quota for the first 3 years was set at 10. And then has been 8 consecutively for the last 3 years. The Elk Advisory Committee, as well as the department, recommended and then further approved that quota reduction down to 8 after seeing that the harvest quota of 10 the first 3 years was slightly higher, had a slightly greater impact on the overall elk population than we wanted to see that early on in the reintroduction and initiation of a hunting season. So after 3 years, the department reduced the quota down to 8 and has held that consecutively each year now. Okay, I mentioned previously that the department uses a suite of biological and social factors to set harvest quotas annually. Some of those are displayed on the screen here. The first set of metrics that the department uses are elk population parameters, including the 4 listed on the screen. Through our harvest quotas, we want to make sure we are maintaining sustained population growth each year at roughly 5% a year or 10% over the course of 2 years. So we don't want the harvest of these bulls negatively impact population growth. Within that population growth, we want to also see sustained bull population growth. So the bull cohort portion of the herd, we want to see continued growth in those numbers, as well as the mature bull cohort portion of the herd. We want to see sustained growth there. And we'd also like to maintain a bull to cow ratio of between 40 and 60 bulls for every 100 cows that are on the landscape. In addition to that, we want to recognize that elk hunting was not the primary goal of the elk reintroductions. Elk were historically a native species, and the primary goal of the reintroduction was to restore that native species when the opportunity arose for us. As such, we recognize that elk hunting should not be the primary consideration when managing our elk herd. Elk viewing and elk tourism is also extremely important for the state and the department and our elk management partners. So we want to ensure that our elk harvest quotas and ultimately our elk population provides a suitable viewing and tourism opportunity for our local communities. We also consider elk conflict levels annually when setting harvest quotas. Elk harvest can adjust population levels up or down depending on the level of harvest that we see. And we can use hunting as a tool to ultimately slow population growth or address local conflict if it does exist. And finally, the last consideration that we use annually is the past distribution of harvest. Right now, elk harvest can occur anywhere within the approved management zone boundaries. And so we want to set conservative quotas that if the entire harvest is occurring within a very small area, which it has been since 2018, we don't want that harvest level to ultimately negatively impact sustained herd growth or local tourism opportunities. For 2024, the department has approved a quota of 8 for the Clam Lake zone and a quota of 4 for the Black River Elk zone. So this year there will be 8 total tags, 8 licenses available to state licensed hunters, which is double from 2023 when there were 4 tags available for state licensed hunters. These quotas attempt to balance sustained population growth with providing as much hunting opportunity as we can, while also considering elk viewing opportunities, tourism, and that type of thing, as well as addressing conflict that exists on the landscape. So 8 and 4 as quotas attempt to balance each of those. We consider those conservative quotas. We are still relatively young with our Clam Lake elk hunt and obviously brand new with our Black River elk hunt. So we want to kind of start slow and be able to build from there as we go. After today, the elk application period is open through May 31st. It opened April 10th when Christina was in front of you announcing the hunt. So far, interest in the elk hunt has been extremely well received. We have surpassed the 2023 number of applicants at this point. So hunters are extremely interested and they've got a little bit more time to submit their application to us. After the close of that application period, we attempt to draw the winners of those tags immediately within a couple days. And we will then notify the hunters with a phone call as soon as we know who they are. All successful applicants who do draw a tag are required to attend a elk education class. It's a one-day kind of a sit-down meeting with us later on in August or September. And then the season will open up in October. And finally, while I'm here today, we just want to provide the board an update on the draft elk management plan. The department and our elk management partners have been working on an updated draft for a number of years now. We are in a position to bring that draft before the board. We are anticipating August is the month that we are able to do that. That draft management plan is currently up on our website for public viewing. Through that process, we have obviously been in close consultation with our tribal partners throughout the state. We've provided that plan to them and offered consultation with them. We have also held 3 open house meetings, 1 in each elk range, as well as 1 virtually to update the public of the plan and what the plan entails and collect comment. We have also put a public comment survey out there for a 30-day window. That wrapped up at the end of April. We are currently in the process of reviewing those public comments internally. And we are anticipating coming back before the board in August with that public input taken into consideration and updates to the plan if needed. And with that, I thank you for your time this morning, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Scott. Questions from the board? Paul?
As the herd has grown, I was contacted by one dairy farmer that had the herd bedding down in his hay fields. Have there been more ag conflicts as the herd is growing especially the Black River Falls area?
Yeah, I would say that's a fair statement for both of our herds. As the numbers grow and as their geographic distribution expands, we have seen additional agricultural conflict annually now. We use a variety of tools to address that conflict to the best of our ability. Obviously, elk are covered in our Wisconsin damage program. We can compensate landowners for their loss. But we also utilize other abatement techniques such as trapping and relocation to move elk away from those properties. Typical hazing techniques can be effective. So we are working closely with the landowners. Typically, when we have elk move into a new area and perhaps spend time on a new landowner's property, we are in direct communication with that landowner to let them know what's going on, explain the options that they have for them, connect them with USDA Wildlife Services to appraise any damage that may occur. And moving forward, the draft elk management plan that we hope to bring forward in August, it includes other tools that we can use to further address damage, including the establishment of elk hunting units that would better allow us to focus harvest pressure where and when we need it. So as opposed to currently, elk hunters can go anywhere within the approved, we'll say the Black River Elk Range boundary. Within that elk management plan, it divides that larger Black River range up into smaller elk hunting units where we can assign additional tags to that area, including potentially cow harvest if we need to. And that'll be a primary tool to reduce elk numbers and hopefully agricultural damage in those areas.
Go ahead, Paul.
Is there a danger of CWD becoming, the herd becoming infected with CWD?
It's certainly possible, and it's on the certainly on our radar. For the first year, first time we found CWD in Jackson County this year in 2 wild white-tailed deer. So it is encroaching on Jackson County. You know, we've seen it coming for a number of years now. It is in most of the counties surrounding Jackson. Elk are certainly capable of becoming infected with CWD and transmitting it. We are looking into it. The draft management plan includes strategies and action items in there that direct us to further develop a plan for how we will address CWD in our elk herd. Certainly, we're concerned about it, and we'll be spending more time on developing those plans and guidelines for how we will address it.
Other questions? Marcy?
Hi, Scott. Thanks for the update, and I look forward to the management plan in August. Can you clarify does the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation continue to have a tag or how they raise money?
Sure, absolutely. The Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation no longer is given a tag to raffle off. They did have a tag for the first 5 years of the elk hunting season, and that was established in state statute. Once we got to about our 3rd elk hunting season, we started communication with Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation to see if they wanted to attempt to kind of re-up that statute language. They decided not to pursue that. They were comfortable with the 5-year window that they had. They appreciated the opportunity. They raised lots of great money that they then provided directly back to elk management. So that was for the first 5 years. Last year was the first year where RMEF did not receive a tag. Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, outside of that raffle tag, is one of our largest contributing partners in terms of funding for elk habitat work, elk research, purchasing of land parcels that then can be turned over to the department. So they They are fundraising throughout the year. They've got chapters, nearly in every county or regionally spread throughout Wisconsin. They receive a tremendous amount of money, and they're an extremely valuable partner for us.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? I have a couple, Scott.
Okay.
One of the issues that we've seen public concern raised on elk is you've got a herd that is put in place to restore a native species that have been extirpated or wiped out in the state. And it's a wonderful opportunity to return a species to Wisconsin that was once native here. And they're still in the growth mode. We've got two herds that are still going. The target population numbers are significant higher than the herds are now. And people raise the question, why do we consider hunting and shooting some of those animals? And the biology of elk herds is different than deer. It's a herd animal. Could you talk a little bit about the thought process the advisory group goes through to address that, harvest, and try and balance the recreational opportunity for a hunt with the tourism, viewing opportunities for non-consumptive wildlife viewing, and also how that affects or doesn't affect the growth of the herd and achieving that goal of a population target that's in the plan? It's a mouthful, but I'd just like a little bit more of your thought process on the hunt versus the herd dynamics and the growth.
Yeah, you bet. Certainly, the Elk Advisory Committee would like to see continued elk herd growth annually, at least in the near term. At some point, we recognize that we may have to kind of level out the population or slow that growth down. So that is one of the key considerations the Elk Advisory Committee considers and then provides that recommendation to the department. These elk harvest quotas certainly can impact the overall population growth if they were too high. The quotas that the committee has recommended and department has approved are at levels that we don't believe ultimately impact overall population growth. If we look at population growth between a quota of 4 or 6 or 8 over a 4 to 5 year period, ultimately 5 years from now, there's not much of a change in overall population growth over those 4 to 5 years. If there were, we would certainly probably be talking about a lower quota. We do recognize both as a department, as an elk advisory committee, that elk tourism, elk viewing is a critical component within elk management in Wisconsin. And we don't want to negatively impact that at the same time that we're offering the hunting opportunity. The great thing about offering a hunting opportunity is it allows us to bring in funding that goes directly back into the elk program. So 70% of the revenue generated through the sale of elk applications comes directly back for habitat management, research, and that type of thing. So right now, the elk application fees that are coming in provide a very significant portion of the funding needed to manage elk in Wisconsin. And so, when we got in, when we established elk hunting season and now set quotas, certainly we consider all those factors. I mentioned before, these are conservative quotas that will still allow the population to grow, still provide those tourism opportunities as previously discussed, but bring in that funding and offer that hunting opportunity as well.
Okay, thank you. Another aspect of that is the extreme interest in mature bulls in the elk herd. Over the last several years of hunter harvest, they've been very selective in looking for trophies. And at the same time, I hear from you and other biologists that it's critical to have mature bulls in the population distributed throughout the herd to make sure there is adequate and successful reproduction and growth. Could you talk a little bit about the dynamics of that and how you decide in levels of harvest and keep an eye on those things?
Sure, you bet. Mature bulls are important for 2 reasons for our herd. They're the most efficient breeders you can have on the landscape. So they get the job done quicker and more effectively than younger bulls. So we want to maintain a kind of a certain threshold of mature bulls on the landscape. Our elk herds are not evenly distributed across the landscape. They reside in smaller subgroups spread out within the overall elk ranges. And so those mature bulls, we need, multiple mature bulls in each of these subgroups to ensure the breeding success within each small subgroup. Younger bulls can certainly breed if they're given the opportunity, but they're just not as effective. So we try to maintain, multiple mature bulls within each of our subgroups. To monitor that, at least, we are out there doing various surveys throughout the year. We use Snapshot Wisconsin trail cameras to monitor within each of these groups. We conduct aerial surveys. We conduct on-the-ground surveys, as well as our winter trapping. We combine all that data annually prior to our quota setting process to look at each of our individual subgroups and identify what number of bulls reside in each of those subgroups. So we review that annually through the Elk Advisory Committee. And we are, when we set quotas, I mentioned we have to also consider the geographic distribution where that harvest would occur. So with the Clam Lake Range specifically, as an example, if all 8 of those bulls were harvested in and around Clam Lake, we want that quota to be at a conservative level where that would be sustainable and still allowed continued population growth within that Clam Lake subgroup. And mature bulls are also very important for elk viewing. Those are the big boys that the public wants to see, bugling and fighting and competing for cows in the fall. So that's of equal weight when we discuss quotas.
Scott, I believe a very important function of this board is to enable public participation and transparency in the process. You talked a lot about public opportunities in the elk planning process and the deliberations of the advisory group. Could you comment on how much the public has taken advantage of that, and do they have opportunities afforded throughout that process leading up to these decisions on quotas?
Absolutely. We provide the public multiple opportunities annually to provide input into our quotas. The leading opportunities through our Elk Advisory Committee, those are open public discussions. We certainly encourage public input and participation in those meetings. Those public meetings are announced on our DNR events website for a couple weeks ahead of the meeting. Several newspapers or press outlets will pick up on that and put that out there. And then throughout our Elk Advisory Committees, which we normally have 2 of each year, a spring and a fall meeting, we make multiple opportunities available during the meeting for the public to comment. So this year, as the committee had 2 different herds to discuss quotas for, we paused prior to the decision for each of the quotas and allowed public comment to take place prior to the committee providing a final recommendation for that zone. The committee is made up of a diverse group of different stakeholder groups. We have, just as an example, the Wisconsin Conservation Congress, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, Wisconsin Wildlife Federation, County Forest Association, Wisconsin Farm Bureau, Cranberry Growers Association, whole host of different partners sit on that advisory committee. And we ask that those partners come to the table with input from their constituents. So that'd be another avenue that they have. In addition to the 2 elk biologists that we have, Josh Spiegel and Christina Kazuski, they are talking to folks weekly throughout the year. So we do get direct feedback from the public on the previous quotas or future quotas. And our biologists then bring that input to the table at the committee level.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Our next item is item 6B, informational item, an update on the 2023 CWD season. Erin Larson, Deer Herd Health Specialist, Bureau of Wildlife Management. Welcome, Erin.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Smith, Deputy Secretary Little, and members of the board. My name is Erin Larson. I'm the Deer Herd Health Specialist for the agency. I've been in this position for about a year, but actually with the department for close to 20 years now. And then majority of that has been with wildlife health. So today I wanted to share with you a summary of the 2023 CWD season, as well as touching on future steps for the CWD response plan. And to help clarify what I mean by CWD season is it overlaps the hunting season, and to be able to have these yearly comparisons, what we categorize as our CWD season is April 1st of a year through March 31st of the following year. So to start, I just wanted to give you a brief history of CWD in Wisconsin and highlight some of the significant events that have helped shape our CWD response. So CWD was found in Wisconsin in 2002 from 3 bucks in Dane County. The DNR first took an aggressive approach with additional seasons and tags or harvest authorizations, extended seasons, and the agency sharpshooting, which did stop in 2007. In 2010, the board approved a 15-year CWD response plan, which was developed to help guide the agency's approach towards CWD, with the goal of minimizing the area of Wisconsin where CWD occurs and the number of affected deer in the state. In 2011, legislative action removed Ernebuck and the October antlerless hunt. In 2012, the Deer Trustee Report was released, which recommended the department take a more passive approach toward chronic wasting disease response. In 2014, our deer management units changed to counties. In 2015, the electronic registration was implemented, which did eliminate a lot of our personal interaction with our hunters and did change the framework of how we were able to collect CWD samples. And then more recently, we have completed our 3rd statewide sweep with concentrated sampling in the districts outside of the Southern District. So wanting to bring you to a map of where we're at today. The map you're seeing is a current map of the cumulative wild and captive positives in the state of Wisconsin. It's a busy map, so I want to talk you through it. There's 2 different highlights for those counties. You see a lighter gray and a darker gray. The lighter gray is where a CWD positive has been detected, either wild or captive or both. The darker gray highlighted counties are within 10 miles of a CWD positive detection in another county. Then you'll see there's it's a square, hard to see in some of those areas, but a small dark gray square. What that's representing is a section or a square mile where a wild positive has been detected. And then the other symbols are provided to us from the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection, or DATCP. So those are captive facilities that have had a CWD positive detection. So we have the red circles where the farm has been depopulated, the yellow stars, which is a deer farm currently in operation, and the red stars, which is a hunting ranch currently in operation, all of which have had a positive detection of at least 1 deer. So currently we have detected 12,580 wild positive detections in 46 counties. As you can see on the map, and I understand it, it's hard to see at this level, but what you can see is they are not evenly distributed across the state. There's definitely, that southwest part of the state, which has the majority of our positives. And even within that, disease prevalence is not uniform, even in counties that have detections. So I also want to point out, if you are interested, because on this map, it's harder to see those positive detections outside of that southwest area. We have an interactive map available on our website, which allows the user to really zoom in and see specific areas of sampled and positive numbers. So then moving toward 2023. So every year a statewide surveillance plan is developed. So what you're seeing on this slide is the areas of the state where sampling is prioritized for the 2023 year. The blue areas represent locations of ongoing monitoring where CWD is already known to be established. And then that tan area is locations where sampling was prioritized to better assess the status of the disease, where more recent detections have been confirmed. But outside of that, of course, there are opportunities statewide to get your deer sampled, and we will accept deer from any location in the state for hunter service testing. However, those prioritized areas will have more outreach and potentially more sampling opportunities. Wanting to then share a map with you of all of the locations where we did get a sample from last year for chronic wasting disease. So again, this is from April 1st of 2023 through March 31st of 2024 for the time frame here. So 17,329 deer sampled statewide. The locations on the map are a section again, or a square mile, where at least 1 deer was sampled. Some may have several. The gray counties, it's in the background there, but those were the CWD affected counties during the 2023 season. So as you can see, there's a wide distribution of where we're getting these samples from. Then moving to where we detected positives last year with a total of 1,586 statewide. Again, looking at the majority of them are in that southern farmland zone and more specifically in that southwest part of Wisconsin. With again, the same as the previous map where it is a square section or a section or a square mile where a positive, at least one was detected. If you add it up, I just wanted to be transparent. If you added up the Southern Farm, Central Forest, Central Farm, and Northern Forest totals, it is just shy of 1,586. We did unfortunately have 3 deer that we received without locational information. We still test those deer if they have that unique identifier, but we're unable to match up to where that deer was harvested or who the hunter was. So then zooming in a little bit to point out the counties that had their first wild positive detection in 2023. So we had Polk County in the northwest part of the state had a positive detection in the fall. Moving to West Central, Trempealeau and Jackson. Trempealeau had 4 detections, Jackson had 2. Then moving to the central part of the state, Waushara had a detection in March. And then Pierce in April. And I will point out that the Pierce positive was actually the 2024 CWD season, not the 2023. But as wanting to just give you the locations for the positives that we've received in these counties most recently. So when we have a county that receives a new detection, the surveillance is increased, the outreach is targeted to hunters and landowners, and we do have a document that we follow for our process. I also want to point out there were several captive facilities that had their first positive detection in 2023. So again, the captive facilities are managed by DATCP, but we work very closely with them as a partner agency and they share their data with us as well. So there were 6 captive facilities that had a positive detection of at least 1 animal last year, with Dodge in May in the south, Sauk as well in southern Wisconsin in June, moving up to West Central or North Central, excuse me, part of the state in Washburn in August, back to the south for Rock, to the north for Oneida in November, and then the southeast Sheboygan in January. So what those purple circles are circling those facilities of these 6 farms. The northern facilities, as well as so for Oneida and Washburn, and as well as Sheboygan, are hunting ranches currently in operation. The Dodge County facility has been depopulated, and Sauk and Rock are deer farms currently in operation. I wanted to share with you our turnaround time for last year. So the turnaround time for a result is the time from when a hunter drops off the deer head or sample to when the result is posted on our website and the email is sent back out to that hunter. So our average statewide turnaround time last year was 9.1 days. I do have to give credit to the Wisconsin Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory, which is who does all of our sample or our results for our samples. They were able to put in some new staffing structure and processes that really helped us to meet that shorter time frame and get those results back to those hunters as quickly as possible. Especially you can see in 2022 and 2021, there were some staffing and supply issues, which did cause that average time to be a little longer. I then wanted to share with you the sampling options that we had available for our hunters last year. So we had 237 options. The vast majority of those are kiosks, so self-service kiosks where the hunter will go through the process by themselves. Those are depicted on the map with a circle, but we also have locations where they are staffed. So a lot of times those are private businesses, and then locations where an appointment can be made to assist with the sampling process. The map is showing the sampling locations available during the 9-day, as there are some differences, early bow or late season. But during the 9-day, we have the majority of our locations available. Similarly, wanting to share our disposal options for last year. So proper disposal of deer carcass waste is one way to reduce the risk of CWD transmission. So we feel it's important to have these resources available to our hunters. We had 155 options with 131 dumpsters, and then a small number of landfills and transfer stations that directly take take those, the waste from hunters as well. We do partner with our Adopt a Dumpster program for these dumpsters, for some of these dumpsters as well, with 77 of those adopted last year. So on the map, the dumpsters are depicted by a circle. So then to sum up our 2023 accomplishments, we had sampled over 17,000 deer statewide. We had over those 150 options for disposal. We had increased use of our online Go Wild sampling form options. So what this is another option for hunters when they're submitting their deer for sampling. Instead of filling out a full hard copy data sheet, they can pull up this electronic form either on their phone or wait until they get home on their computer, which is less questions, a little easier process for them where they just have to pick a point on a map. We had an increase this year from up to 20% of our sample deer. The farmers or hunters are using this option for instead of the hard copy form, which is provides efficiencies for us as well. We continued those partnerships with Adopt a Kiosk and Adopt a Dumpster. We had 13 kiosks adopted and 77 dumpsters adopted. And then we were able to successfully get a grant from USDA APHIS for assisting with our deer carcass disposal costs. So to end, I wanted to share with you a look forward. The planning is currently underway for the 2024 sampling season, as the fall will be with us before you know it. Summers always go quick. We've also started the process to create a new CWD response plan. So our current plan is from 2010 to 2025. And in May of 2022, the board was presented the results of the second 5-year review of this 15-year plan. The products of this second year review will heavily inform our next response plan. We will re-engage the multi-stakeholder review committee that was involved in that second 5-year review. We will also have a public engagement process with a series of open houses and ways for comments to be submitted. We will consult with the tribes through the process with the tentative goal of presenting the final plan back to the board in the year of 2025. So with that, thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Aaron. Are there questions? Doug?
Thanks, Chair. So I know that CAP's doing the farm monitoring and enforcement, but do we have an idea on what the rate is on farms that have positive CWD occurrences across the state?
So the DACAP does share with us, anytime a positive is found, a positive detection, even after the first, we're still involved with that data and share it. As far as you're asking for more of a percentage, or?
Yeah, so the number of farms versus how many of those have positive.
I'd have to defer to DACAP to answer that question.
Then my other one is on your map you had up there on CWD affected counties. They were in gray. Like a good portion of the state was in gray. Are the affected counties on your map considered the ones that fall within the radius of a positive detection? Is that why there's so much gray on that map?
Right. So CWD affected is either it's had a positive detection wild or captive within the county, or the county is within 10 miles of the border of a county that has. So it does include those counties are considered CWD affected without having a detection directly in the county for if they're close enough.
One more, Chair.
Go ahead, Doug.
So the depopulation issue, I assume that's DACAP as well.
Correct.
Do you know what that trigger is for depopulation? Does it vary from farm to farm? I know it's a DACAP question, but
I'd have to defer to DACAP on their processes.
yeah, and generally that's the other issue is when you look at CWD management regulation, you know this very well, is it's confusing for even management, I'm sure. When is DNR involved and when is DACAP involved and how do they communicate and how effective are we? That those regulations just seem like they're too shotgun. They're all over the place and you don't know which agency does what, and it's really confusing. So it'd be nice if we ever unified that management. I know it's a bigger issue, but
It is a much bigger issue, and I'm looking at the map with the hot samples that are generally outstate from the area that CWD was originally found in and is most prevalent. A lot of those hot spots are attributed to commercial ag deer operations, whether it's a shooting farm or, you know, raising animals. So the risk of spread in those to me is very, very, very apparent just by looking at the map and where the samples are. I think it's an important issue.
Agree. Thank you, Aaron.
Other questions? Paul?
In searching for a solution for this problem, is, you know, passive management isn't gonna solve it. Is there any hope on the horizon, like a vaccine or anything that the DNR is pursuing?
Well, what I can say is we do keep our eye on, any research that's occurring, any new tools that other states are using. At this point, there is nothing I can specifically share with you on a silver bullet, but we're certainly, involved in discussions with all those that are looking into different options.
Is there any resources, funding that you commit to try and find a solution outside of monitoring?
So we have the Office of Applied Science who does research within the agency. That's not my bureau, and but they have done some CWD research. So as far as any details on that, I'd have to defer to them.
Thanks, Chair.
Other questions? Robin?
So, and I apologize if somehow I missed this, but I'm curious about the rate of detections as it relates to the number of carcasses that are sent in. So are you seeing, are you able to project like X percentage of carcasses are sent in, and of those X percentage are coming back positive, and has that rate changed over time? I guess what I'm trying to get at is are there enough people voluntarily testing their carcasses to really have a good understanding of where the existence of these outbreaks might be?
Yeah, and so the prevalence or percent positive throughout the state is very different. So we can't say that, in Wisconsin, prevalence rate or percent positive is going to be this amount. It varies extremely throughout the whole state. And even in, even say Dane County, we do have some materials on our website that we run an analysis on every year with our OAS partners for prevalence. Apparent prevalence, true prevalence is, apparent prevalence having, we're only testing a subset of that population. So, having to consider that as part of the analysis. But so we have graphs where we looked at specific areas throughout time to see, how many positives are we getting through. It's a smaller area. Most of them are 4 townships wide. And so those graphs are really what I would point you to look at. And unfortunately, in some, we have seen a rise in the number of detections that we're getting from some of those areas. I did have some figures here that I could share. Some of our higher areas in Southwest Sauk, adult males from that, the prevalence estimate are, about 45 to 48%. Adult females could be about 33 to 37%, but that's in one specific small area. So, and as far as enough samples in an area to be able to find these positives, it really depends. Is throughout the state, we have different numbers of positives, and depending on where we're trying to target getting more samples from for that particular area.
Do you think people are kind of becoming numb to this, so they're less interested in having their animals tested? Or are you seeing kind of a continued leveling off or even growth of people who submit their animals for the carcasses for testing?
Yeah, I mean, that really depends as well on where you're at. What we are seeing is, and what we very much value, is partnerships of groups that are wanting to become involved and wanting to work with us. Sometimes you see that in new areas where you get these groups that really want to partner with us and help to keep the disease at a lower level. But even in areas where we've had the disease for for many years and further south. We have great partnerships with a lot of folks and conservation groups that partner with, for example, our Adopt a Dumpster program. You know, wanting to contribute to that and have that resource available as well.
Other questions?
Sir?
Darcy?
Thank you, Aaron, and thank you for the briefing and the extra information. I share the concern about the farms and the consistency or public information with DATCP. I think we've heard the concerns throughout the state, and I think it could be an item that could be addressed with some recommendations. The other question I have is about the cost, and I hesitate to get into it because I support as much testing as possible. I don't think enough could be done, and I don't think we're being aggressive enough in protecting those areas that do not have CWD. But do you know what the cost of testing is roughly?
Yeah, so are you asking just the test cost itself does have a cost? We also have an estimate of just a per sample cost as well. I can share both those.
At the lab, what's the cost?
The cost at the lab is $22.44 as of our MOU last year.
Okay, and the funding for that comes from the license fees or the conservation fund, or?
So we have one of the funding sources for chronic wasting disease is the bonus tag sales.
Okay. So that seems like a really high priority, right? To get that figured out, because a license isn't that much more to cover the cost or a tag. So hopefully we can continue the discussion on that in the report and have some recommendations on that. The other one that we touched on is the information for the hunter on how to test. For a while, we were really pushing the node samples with hopes that would save money in both staff time and processing. And apparently that's not necessarily the case.
We had tried a couple of different formats for providing a self sampling kit to hunters, where we had a specific kit that they would pick up with all the materials, some that were mailed out. In Wisconsin, we just didn't see enough interest to continue the process of creating the actual kit. We do still have the information available on our website. We have a video plus a printout if a hunter wants to take the lymph nodes themselves. But really what we see is that with the amount of kiosks that we have across the landscape, a lot of times it's really easy for that hunter to just drop the head off in that location and make it as, pretty quick on themselves. So it's an option for hunters surely to take the lymph nodes directly themselves, but a lot of our hunters choose to just still submit the whole head.
Okay, so I think instead of waiting for the report to come out on that, I wonder if we could get a consistent message out in the public for the next season. Because I think for the people that I've talked to that work with the volunteer organizations and others, it sounds like it's gotten a little bit more confusing at the local level of what those organizations are supposed to be promoting.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for that comment. We'll look into that.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? I have a couple.
Okay.
One of the things that I think is really important, I know this is a 2023 report, 1 year, but I want to make sure that it's clear in the context of where we've been and where we're headed with CWD. The details of that are at a different conversation. But just in real general terms, you mentioned some of the data you have. You mentioned questions about the prevalence at a particular point. My question is more general, and it's general trends. And do you have enough information to comment on what I perceive from a layperson, what I perceive to be the long-term trend of CWD, despite a lot of efforts to stop it, slow it down, get rid of it. My sense is that CWD, despite all of our best efforts, continues to grow. It continues to give a higher prevalence of disease in certain parts of the state, growing slowly maybe, but there has been this long-term trend in some of those areas that were initially contaminated with it. Over the years, that prevalence has gone from small single digits to now 30, 40%, 45%. That's very significant growth. Is there any sign that that's slowing down or plateauing in those areas, or do we expect that's going to continue to grow?
So what we've seen in modeling in other states and research is that there does seem to be, it doesn't exponentially grow forever, that there will be, if you say, a plateau. In Wisconsin, I think a lot of looking towards the future, the CWD response plan process is going to help guide us to where we want to go in the future. There was a lot of really extensive work done in that second 5-year review with looking at different options, different plans. And okay, if we put this plan into place, what would the future look like? If we did this, what would that look like? And so, wanting to, with this new plan process, is to really re-engage the public as well, and giving that information from that second 5-year review as we determine what's our best steps to move forward.
The other long-term trend that's real obvious is the disease initially showed up just a short distance west of Madison. And since then, it has spread almost statewide, despite very deep concerns that Doug expressed about how are we containing this disease? How are we trying to keep it out of the counties where it isn't prevalent and to slow it down? And yet, despite our best efforts, geographically, CWD has continued to spread to the north, to the east, to the northeast. And we get questions about baiting and feeding. People are upset about the ban and they say, oh, we just ought to get rid of it. It's not working. Other people say, we need to institute it statewide. We need to put more effort into it. I don't want to get into a baiting and feeding debate, but it's just an indication of the public interest in this. Any sense that there's any of the efforts that we're making that are helpful in slowing this down?
Yeah, baiting and feeding isn't meant to completely eliminate risk, but to reduce the transmission risk for chronic wasting disease, as a lot of the other options that we're doing as well. So, moving a carcass around throughout the state, and by having options for these hunters to dispose of their deer waste in a way that is not put back on the landscape, potentially in a new area, and if it was positive, that would certainly want to be something we avoid. So, all of these actions that are being put into place are to reduce the risk, but, can we completely eliminate the risk with those? No. But they are worthwhile to meet that goal of reducing.
Still an important and significant tool in your mind.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. In other states that have had this longer than we have, there aren't too many of them, but Colorado, for example, some of the population analysis that's been done over time shows that as the disease reaches a certain prevalence in the population, they're seeing population numbers in general go down. And they believe heavily influenced by the prevalence of the disease and reduced herd numbers for deer, elk, and other species. Do you see any of that happening in Wisconsin yet?
What I can share with that is our partners again in the Office of Applied Science have been working on research for the Southwest Wisconsin CWD deer and predator study. And what that research is looking at is examining factors that could influence deer population change in Southwest Wisconsin. So they are currently working with their research collaborations on analyzing the data to answer that very question. I don't have any of the results to share today, but hopefully we'll be able to see that soon.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman Smith, one other thing I want to add on to a previous question you had is, when we, and it's also for some members of the board who weren't around when we first found chronic wasting disease, we did a very extensive testing in 2002 after we found it. And we did find a larger number of positives with that process, which has told us and in looking in modeling and as well in the future that we didn't find it at the very beginning of when it was introduced to Wisconsin. It was already likely established in Southwest Wisconsin. Some of these new areas where it's popping up, we could be at a much lower prevalence rate than we were in Southwest Wisconsin in 2002. So it does give us the opportunity to have more success with some of these tools, when you're at closer to introduction versus when it's already established.
Can I follow up on that, or were you gonna?
I'm just going to make one
Go for
more
it.
request and then I'll go right to you, Marcy. This obviously is still a big and hotly debated issue in the public. And as you go through the revision to the plan, you mentioned earlier, you plan to bring it to the board in 25. I'm wondering if there's an opportunity for the board to have a informational session or a discussion at an appropriate time in the planning process, just to kind of revisit where we're at, what the issues are, how you're handling them before we see a final plan come to the board. A chance for us and maybe to time that with some of the public involvement through meetings and so forth, that we can play a more active role in the planning process before a final document comes to the board.
Yeah, makes sense and something
Think
that
about
we,
that and
yes,
look forward to suggestions, how
Thank
to
you.
fit that into your process.
thank you.
Thank you, Marcy.
Yeah, your comment prompted one other, when we got the update or the review, the 5-year review, the recommendation from the cohort of the health department and all of the experts, federal, state, was to be very aggressive at those fringe areas where there's less prevalence. Are we seeing like the quota recommendations next month? Will they reflect that after the Deer Committee looks at the combination of issues going on? Is that coordination happening?
So the results from the second 5-year review have not been able to be implemented at this time. I wasn't involved. If there is more specific, on that process at the time. We do have Tammy Ryan in the room here. If there was any specific questions, Chairman Smith, I'd have to ask permission for Tammy to speak to that, but I wouldn't be able to answer
Only if
anymore.
she wants to. I guess I'm confused of why we wouldn't be able to implement that.
Yeah, okay. Good morning, Tammy Ryan. I'm a deputy administrator with Fish, Wildlife and Parks. So yes, I was in my previous position, I was in the wildlife health program supervisor role and in that role during the CWD response plan review. And we went through a very extensive process of structured decision-making and also informed with systems modeling. And as a result of that process, we identified a new goal and objectives for the CWD response plan, which you'll see in the next version of the plan. But then also through that process, they developed a suite of recommendations that would ultimately inform operations going forward. This suite of recommendations are kind of a package, right, that we'd want to implement in tandem or, collectively. And we've had multiple conversations with secretaries since that time. We've had several changes in the secretary's office. So every time those changes occur, the conversation starts over, right? So that's kind of why we're where we are today.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Tammy. Any other questions of Aaron? Deb?
I don't know how to phrase this, but if a hunter has a trophy buck, how likely are they to drop the head off if they want it to be like my brother-in-law? If you go to his cabin, it's frightening. But how, is that a deterrent? I mean,
No, so we make sure to try to get that information out to hunters because we don't want to have anyone not be able to, have a mount made if they want. So there's a few different options we have. If somebody wants to have a full shoulder mount, what we recommend is that at their taxidermist, they would cape it out. So they'll remove the outside of the deer and then return the inside of the head to that hunter who would then get it to us. Also another, a lot of hunters like to do European mounts where it's just the skull. So we can have them, that would be where it'd be better if they had an appointment with a local biologist or brought it to one of those stations that can remove the lymph nodes for them, like a staff station. And then they can take the whole head on their way. So there's options for these hunters to still be able to get their deer sampled, but not have to ruin their, their mount.
Thank you.
Doug,
Thanks, Chair. I was just thinking on your thoughts about an informational session. I'd fully support that. I think it's something that might be helpful. I'd recommend that we look at bringing the folks in from DATCAP that do that part of the regulation for that session if we can, if we have that ability, and have those discussions, get some of those other things not only answered, but talk about maybe some recommendations to informationally solidify some of the processes here and that we're all struggling with.
thanks for raising that. A dip back into recent history. Your predecessors on the board, the former board, had suggested that would be a priority too. And I know the department had reached out to DATCAP and we were trying to organize some kind of a joint get together in relation to our own schedules, and it just didn't work out this year. We just couldn't find a date that would work. But I think whatever opportunity there is to get together, mutual discussion would really be good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions, comments from the board? Aaron, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, on to item 7, Department Secretaries Matters. Deputy Secretary Stephen Little, you're on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. 7A, I have 3 retirement recognitions. The first one is Amy J. Eggstad, Public Safety and Resource Protection, 30 years. Brad Wolbert, Environmental Management, 30 years. And Jay Apps, Fish, Wildlife and Parks, 34 years. I request a motion to approve these recognitions.
Robin moves approval. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Marcy. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by, Doug, were you going to say something?
Just congratulations to those and thank you for their years of service. We appreciate it.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next, 7B, acts of the Department Secretary. Number 1, real estate transactions. Are there any questions on real estate transactions?
Hearing none, I'd like to note that a lot of the ones that have been hanging there for quite a while are being closed out and moved off the pending chart. So my congratulations to staff on successful completion of those negotiations and acquisitions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And then under C, or the Secretary's matters, just a few things that I wanted to share with the board. Number 1, over the last several months, I've had the opportunity to partake in a lot of first-time opportunities, visiting a MRF, the recycling facility. And then earlier this month, had an opportunity to address the Wisconsin Conservation Congress at their annual meeting. It was an opportunity for us to share my perspective on how operationally things are going in the department, but also an opportunity for our staff to share information, provide their expertise to the delegates at the annual meeting. And it was just a wonderful opportunity to collaborate and to see the process up close and personal. So thank you for that. The second item that I'd like to just raise is, as we roll into the Memorial Day weekend, just a plug to our customers to make sure that they are purchasing their parks passes and stickers and trail passes. New this spring, we are going to be rolling out the opportunity to purchase trail passes online. I know this has been a subject of interest for one particular board member. And we are happy to, share that when you purchase online, you will be receiving, you can either print the receipt, carry it with you, or you can download it into your Google or Apple digital wallet. Paper receipts will not be mailed to customers for online orders. I also just want to say that Trail Pass vendors, they are located throughout the state and they're vital partners to the DNR and to the assets of state and local communities. And a portion of those trail passes at local vendors go directly back into state trails for their particular communities. So customers not buying their trail passes online should consider supporting their local vendors as well. A couple of housekeeping notes. We discussed in meetings with you, Mr. Chair, the schedule for the Out of Madison meetings for the NRB summer travel season. In June, we will be in Green Bay. In August, we will be going up to Turtle Lake, St. Croix area. And then in September, we will be in the Stevens Point area. Next housekeeping item, we already discussed the June informational item around wake boating. We look forward to presenting to the board a presentation on department's roles, a summary of the issue itself, and then talk about potential next steps. Two more things. I want to thank Holly Lamers and her staff ESAs for assisting the board during the transition of Ashley's leave. I've seen firsthand the work and care that's going into making a seamless transition. And I just want to publicly thank Holly and her staff for hopefully a seamless transition while Ashley is on leave. And congratulations to you, Ashley. Lastly, I think you said it really well earlier in the meeting, Mr. Chair, but I do also want to thank all the Friends groups, nonprofit volunteer groups for both their monetary and sweat equity donations that they're making to the department, to our trail systems, to our park systems, to our natural areas. And it means a lot to me personally. It certainly means a lot to our staff, and it means a lot to the citizens of Wisconsin. So with that, thank you for the time.
Thank you very much for all the good news and the good comments. I'd like to comment on one of them before we move to board members' matters, and that is the Out of Madison board meetings. We do this throughout the year, but mostly in the summer months and into the early fall. We get 2 or 3 months to take the meeting out of Madison, and there's really good reasons for doing that, important reasons. We can bring the board function more accessible to the public around the state. With the advent of Zoom, we have technology now that helps us do that, but you just can't totally substitute the opportunity for face-to-face interaction with people, with key staff, and with our conservation partners. And being able to get the board's business out in other parts of the state is critical. The other thing that I've seen over the years that gives us as board members a chance to be out there, feet on the ground, see some of the key issues, see the people that are affected by that, and really learn in depth and be much better informed in our own decision-making processes. So it's a great benefit to the board. I also believe it's a great benefit to that working relationship with the broader conservation community and the citizens that we serve. So I understand it requires a lot of extra work from staff. And I've said before, we appreciate very much your support and we value that. We know there's a big impact here, but I think it's important that we continue to make that effort and to get our operations out to the people that we serve. So thank you. Any other questions of Secretary's remarks? Let's move on to board members' matters. Paul Burr.
Thank you, Chair, and I have little to add except to thank Secretary Little for moving forward. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
You have to pick a new issue now.
Yeah, well, there's still work to be done.
Thank you, Paul. Patty Shackner's not here, and Patty had work conflicts. She's on call and was hoping to join by Zoom, but we were unable to do that. I understand she's got to be out there serving the public in her own capacity on the job. So we'll look forward to seeing Patty next month. Doug, you're next. Board Members Matters.
Thanks, Chair. So the external meetings, the June one going to be in Green Bay, so I've been adding some assistance with that planning. I talked to our acting Secretary Director, Natasha Gwitt, at length. The agenda is looking really good for the tour. What we'd like to do, since we're going to be located at Oneida Nations Conference Center there, is have someone come in from Oneida Nation and participate in some fashion, and I'm working on that now. So I'm sure that they'll be happy to. So we can look forward to some of that in June. Also, just thanks to the staff for all the hard work they do and continuing to see the progress and the amazing things that are getting done here. It's a testament. So let's keep it up. Thank you.
Doug, thank you very much for taking on that board liaison role with planning for the Green Bay meeting. Other board members are serving in that capacity as well, and it's a chance for the board to stay connected and for our local board members to contribute their knowledge of the local area and ideas for appropriate items on the tour and the logistics. It's been very helpful keeping us involved in the process. So I appreciate that extra workload and insight.
Happy to do it. Thanks, Chair.
Deb, you're next.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to tell a little warden story if I could. In Ozaukee County, a woman that I work with, young woman who's really a bird watcher. She takes about a 6-mile walk up the interurban trail from Cedarburg to Mequon, gets coffee, and then walks her 6 miles back. And a few weeks ago on her walk, she came across a dead heron. And she's walking a little bit and she's just startled. She's walking a little bit further and she comes across 5 dead cormorants. She calls local officials, calls the DNR. They were there within an hour. Warden Tony Young was there within an hour, really made her feel so much better about, because she was startled. She called her parents. She's 22 years old. And he actually took a picture holding one of the birds, but it reassured her that they're going to do a necropsy study. She'd get the information within a month, and she felt so calmed. And so I just wanted to share that story because I think it's another example of public service that all these agencies do. And I called Tony Young myself and thanked him for doing that because she was very, very upset. So that's my little story. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Robin?
So I was pleased to hear Deputy Secretary Little's assessment of the damages that were done with the severe weather that we had. And I'm really grateful. I know how much, we have a holiday weekend coming up and how much work it takes for the people who are out in the field to do that cleanup so that people can have an enjoyable experience at the parks and state lands. But it also kind of came to the forefront in my mind about the fact that, we continue to see severe weather issues. And I wanted to note that I was really pleased to see the work that's being done in Monroe County. So the Monroe County Highway Department, along with their Emergency Management Department, were the only award in Wisconsin for a $500,000 grant from the Federal Highway Administration program called Promoting Resilient Operations for Transformative, Efficient, and Cost-Saving Transportation. Protect is what it's called. And so they're doing something really interesting. What they're doing is they're going to, with communities, local communities, they're going to inventory and assess all stream crossing structures in the watershed, in the La Crosse River watershed, and identify strategies for making roadways and stream crossings more resilient to extreme weather. But what they're looking at is really the cost effectiveness of rebuilding those structures as opposed to working with landowners to increase infiltration so that they won't achieve some of those high water levels that can really blow out some of that road infrastructure. And so what I found really really helpful, or I guess inspiring from the story, is that they're really the headwater. Monroe County is really the headwaters for 4 rivers that really flow in other counties. And the work they're doing is going to have substantial impact on reducing flow to those counties. So it was really, I was really grateful to see that they have this vision of how they can help protect not just their county, but other counties in a more cost-effective way. So I'll be curious to see what they find out, how their Project Protect grant works, and to hear back from them on the effectiveness of some of those strategies working with the Farmland Preservation Program and other agricultural programs.
Thank you, Robin.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for that story, Robin. We are going to have to borrow that acronym. You know, at the DNR, we love acronyms, and we're going to have to figure out a way to repurpose that. So thanks for sharing that. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Marcy.
Oh, it's a hard act to follow. Stephen neglected to inform everybody that at the WCC meeting, he admitted to being a Bears fan. So as a Green Bay native, it hurts. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and my board member matter for the department is that I would request additional information on that issue of the funding for the CWD tests in comparison to how we kind of work through not losing surveys or not discouraging surveys, but how we can work together on continuing those efforts. And if staff could just get back to me on that, I'd appreciate that. The other thing is a bit of a public plea, looking at the Memorial Day weekend. Locally, I've been in some discussions with the use of life jackets. We used to call them life jackets, PFDs. And I keep thinking about these public properties and the folks who work for the department, weekends, evenings, all that. How much the public could do to help us or help the department and themselves stay safe, assist with litter cleanup. If you're at a state park, instead of leaving your trash, take it to the dumpster that's provided. All those little things that would help. All of those messages that go out about safety through our public communications. I assume the wardens appreciate that, and we cannot do enough of that. So I don't know if the plea is through communications or through our local volunteers, but just everybody that uses a public property to kind of take care of themselves and keep themselves safe would go a long way as we look to some of the financial issues that we have to deal with. So with that, I do hope everybody has a safe and fun Memorial Day weekend, whether you're on the water or on the trails.
Thank you, Marcy. And that comes around the table to me. I have a couple of comments. As Stephen, as you mentioned earlier, your visit to the Conservation Congress annual convention, I was there also, and I have a couple of comments myself. I found the agenda to be informative. It was a great opportunity for those personal contacts with individual delegates. I missed most of the speeches because they had me trapped in the hall and the line was long. But it was good. It was just a good opportunity to talk to people that have contributed a good part of their lives to conservation in Wisconsin. I send my congratulations to Rob Bowman and his executive leadership team. Some changes there, but elected to continue to lead the Congress. And as usual, I was just reassured that the Congress continues to have delegates that are dedicated to public service,
their donations of time, energy, their advice to the board on a wide variety of topics. I emphasize just a couple of things with a look to the future. Recognizing the heritage of the Congress and their success, but also their demographics. I encouraged them as the baby boom population passes through and people change and new leaders come forward. I encourage them to keep their eyes open to a wide variety of voices, to continue to build a broad conservation base, and to continue to stretch their wings and advise the board within the full range of our responsibilities. I think there's a capacity there, and I encourage them to make decisions and to come and talk to the board on that wide variety of changing issues here as our world changes around us. The second thing I want to comment on is once more a little bit on wake surfing. What we heard from our people that appeared before the board today, on a couple of instances, they were very complimentary of staff. They acknowledge that you're working with tight resources, with limited positions, and wake surfing is basically a new phenomena here that's burst on the scene. We can't do everything. And they recognize that, but they were very complimentary of staff efforts to try and assist them within the limits of our authority, within the limits of funding and staffing and other priorities. And I just want to point that out and pass on my thanks on behalf, I think, of the board and myself, of the staff efforts in this area. And Stephen, I want to thank you as well for organizing this thing in a well thought out, deliberate fashion to make significant progress on the issue. And I look forward to the session that you're suggesting for the June meeting. I think the timing will be good. I think it's a great opportunity for some of our newer board members to get a stronger base on this issue. I look forward to the discussion. So thank you very much. Any more comments or questions under board members' matters? As I mentioned at the start of the meeting, we'll now move to a closed meeting. I would request a motion to enter a closed session under the authority of section 19.85 sub 1 sub D of the Wisconsin statutes for a safety and security meeting.
So moved.
We have, where did that,
Deb.
Deb? Deb moved approval and Robin seconds the motion. I need to call for a roll call vote to enter closed session. Ashley, could you call the roll of the board on the vote?
Paul Berg.
Aye.
Douglas Cox.
Aye.
Deb Daxel.
Aye.
Robin Schmidt.
Aye.
Marcy West.
Aye.
And Bill.
Aye. Motion carries. We will enter into closed session in G9, just kitty corner down the hall. And I would guess the meeting will reconvene in open session in 30 minutes, no longer than an hour. Thank you.
Are you? We're ready whenever you guys are. It's a Natural Resource Board. We're resuming open session. Madison, Wisconsin, May 22nd, 2024. There was no action taken during the closed session. It was a closed session informational briefing discussion. With that, is there any other business before the board? Hearing none, a request to adjourn would be appropriate.
I move to adjourn.
We've got a motion from Paul to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
We've got a second from Doug. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you all. Safe travels.
Thank you.
Enjoy your Memorial Day holiday weekend and
So
remembrances.
where exactly is?
So there is lunch in G27 and